I was really, really happy with how I executed my games experience as best I could given all of the circumstances last year, and I was really happy with obviously the result, and everything was so good. And sometimes, you know, there's this little bit of pressure on myself almost to be able to replicate that. I'm Saunders. I'm from Brisbane in Australia, and I train out of my own affiliate, CrossFit Cova. I think this year at the Games is going to be a really cool extension of last year. You know, last year was the first year that we were in Madison, and I think the whole Games team had to kind of put the feelers out there and see how the CrossFit Games worked in the new space, and we were able to do some pretty cool things given the fact that it was, you know, it was the first time. But I think now another 12 months and then a whole season under our belt of understanding the space has kind of like opened up the opportunity, and I think we'll get to explore Madison a little bit more. I'm hoping and thinking, as well as everybody else, I think at the moment, that we're going to end up, you know, testing out some things that are quite true to Madison. So riding bikes. I'm hoping that we can get in the water again, and I would love to be in the water a little bit more. That's what I am anticipating and kind of hoping for as well. And maybe a little bit of, I've had in my mind like a little bit of an extension of something like the O course, but just not so like single focused, whether that will be incorporated into other elements or something like that. That's kind of like where I'm going. And then, you know, that'll be sprinkled in between CrossFit, all the like, you know, the real CrossFit kind of stuff. Yeah, I made a huge change in the last 12 months, obviously becoming a part of the Brute Strength team. And, you know, I'd had one way of training for a very long time, and it was the kind of training that I didn't really have a lot of involvement with. So I kind of just trusted and didn't really know what I was working on, and just did a little bit of everything. Since being under Nick's guidance and as a part of Brute, I have been really identifying areas that were actually deficient. And for me, things like, you know, my aerobic capacity, getting someone like Chris Hincher involved as well has been a really huge part of my training for a long part of the season, rather than just trying to incorporate it last minute in preparation for the Games. I've tried to really change that system over, still build on things that were slightly deficient, like pressing and, you know, deadlifting as an isolated movement, and then trying to maintain obviously everything else that I had. I kind of have shifted away from focusing too much on strength stuff. Obviously that comes to me quite naturally. I still need it there, but I definitely have needed to work a little bit more in that kind of aerobic side and more games style things as well, like training that, which is something that I haven't really done as much before. And, you know, looking at my history, I do well in the Open, I do really well at regionals, and then it gets to the Games and those kind of things are just like sitting a little bit too low. So it was an area that just needed to be tackled. I think my biggest challenge this year is backing up such a win of a year for me last year. It's definitely more of like a mental kind of challenge, I guess. I had a lot of adversity, and I kind of taught myself a lot of things, and I figured out a lot of things, and I get a little concerned that, you know, was it only one time, and, you know, was it a fluke? And it's kind of like proving it to myself and then just building on and executing even better and in more of a competitive way, as well as staying nice and chilled and relaxed and happy-go-lucky like I was last year. So it's trying to find that balance for me is really, really tricky, and I think that's going to be my greatest challenge and definitely my focus. Being with Brute was, you know, when you change something so big, and it's a huge part of what I do, like obviously it's putting your trust and everything into someone entirely new, and, you know, it's a little bit nerve-wracking at the start, but I was not given any reason to be nervous this time. You know, it was a big change, and there's that little bit of, okay, like I have to adjust to something new, but the team was just so professional, but also personal, and had that kind of balance between everyone where I could talk to real people. I could, even being all the way in Australia and dealing with, you know, obviously a group of people in the US, which is so far away, totally different time zones. I kind of have always felt like a part of the team and like I had the ability to communicate. And you pair that with a group of people that are actually really smart and know what they're doing and have, you know, structure and flow and a process behind programming, it makes a world of difference. So for me, it took a lot of stress off, just knowing that I was always doing the right things. It was hard adjusting physically more than anything to like a whole new load of programming. But once I kind of got through that, it's just been really smooth, and I've known this whole time that I can just I can trust in what's being given to me and where it's coming from. Going into the games, it's like fine tuning, all of those little details, and a lot of like, you know, some things are crazy monotonous. They're things that have to be done, the foundations that need to be repetitive, and then all of these amazing new skills that I just never incorporated into my training that allow me to have to adjust and have to constantly think on my feet in a way of training. And then I piece those two things together, all of the foundations that I built, all of these crazy new skills, add in now the execution, and then number one at the CrossFit Games. But it looks quite different, but it's easy. It flows, not easy work, but as in it makes sense and it flows, and it kind of just like, you can feel this continual growth.